And basically, we're just going to cut to the chase and get into like the birth story and the details of my first daughter, and then kind of compare when I had my second daughter 4 years later, kind of the differences and how having knowledge and just, birth classes and a birth plan, is very beneficial and important to the experience that you have. So obviously having your first kid, you don't have prior knowledge, you don't have much research done unless you're going to take the time and just read little articles and things like that, which is what I did, and I'll explain that as I go through. So with my first, my water started leaking at the house, and my husband and I decided to go into the hospital to get checked to see what was going on. And I had to get on the table, and the nurse had to check to see if it was my water bag that actually popped. So I was laying there waiting for her to come back, and when she did check, she actually finished popping my water bag. So
that's an intervention to start with.
Yes, popping water bags. Sometimes they do it on accident. Sometimes they go in there and pop your water bag on purpose, like if you want to progress in labor. But it popped and everything. I remember like everything coming out on the table, and the nurse looked at me and she goes, "Well, I hope you're ready because you're getting admitted." So then, like, I became very emotional because it was my first time. I was a little nervous already going in, not knowing what's happening, just have to kind of look, because I wasn't timing contractions or anything. I fully went in based off of I had water leaking. And I was pretty sure it was my water that had broken, but it wasn't like a gush of water. It was just like a trickle almost, to where I had to, wear a disposable pad until I got there. So that's how my experience started. But from there, everything went really fast. Even though my labor was in total 23 hours, it was.
Can I stop you just a
Yes.
minute? We were just talking in our class previously, a few minutes ago, a little while ago, about the brain, the benefits, risks, alternatives. At that point, when the nurse said, "Well, you'll have to be admitted now," did you or your husband stop to think, okay, what's the benefits of this right now? What are the risks? And what are, my alternatives? Can I go home and start? Because I haven't really, did you feel contractions?
Right. No, I really just did not know what was going on. And I was looking for their direction because it was my first experience.
Right.
And I didn't have, I didn't feel empowered to ask any of those things.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to go through all of this.
Right.
Was that everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to know.
So basically starting out with that 23 hours, you can imagine just, how tired I was and everything like that. But basically what happened with my body is my water had broke and no contractions had started. So the nurse recommended at that point that I take Pitocin.
Another intervention.
Yes. So I, again, just went along with what they were informing me to do. And I was prescribed the Pitocin. And after that, obviously, contractions started out strong. It's not immediately after. The medicine does have to take time to take effect. But contractions started coming on strong. And with all of the pain I was feeling, just all of the emotions, I requested an epidural.
Okay, so there's another. It's fine if you need something for pain, but that's another intervention.
And it's pain management, yeah.
Right.
So I did, I waited for them to come in. I did that. And then after that, I was able to rest. So I did nap for part of my labor. And then as things progressed, it became time for the pushing stage, which is the final stage of labor. So we were ready for that. And I did have lots of support. I had family there as well. I did not have a doula, but I did have family. And, we just got started with that, and I had, the baby, but it was just very long. It was a long labor. It was. And there are ways to kind of have that go shorter and be alleviated of pain in a natural way, which is what I wanted to accomplish with my second birth.
So that's where the birth plan came in, and you basically wrote down some things and you had some preferences that you wanted. Can you tell us what the differences were between the two and what you decided?
The major difference for me was I wanted to shorten the total hours of my labor, my pushing time. I wanted to go from having an epidural to going natural. So that was something that I was very determined to do. And I prepared for that going through my pregnancy. coming up to my due date and my knowing I was going into birth again, I wanted to make sure that I was fully prepared this time. I mean, you can never be fully prepared, but I wanted to be more empowered to stand up for myself.
And that's why you did a birth plan and preferences.
Yes, because once you're in, and if you have your partner and family for support, also share your birth plan with them and let them know, what you want and what is important to you. So for me, I had things listed on there as far as the position that I wanted to push when it was time to push. Obviously, not taking an epidural unless I requested one. So I specifically put that they don't encourage me to take one or ask me if I wanted one, that I wanted to be the one to request it. Because I knew if they requested it, I'd be more prone to just saying, yeah, we'll just go ahead and do it. So I went in with the mindset that this was what, my body was created to do, and that, mentally that I can do this.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the differences with the births and what you did different versus the first one.
Okay. So I've had a birthing ball. I had a birthing ball with my first pregnancy, and I didn't have with the second as well, but I used it a lot more in my second pregnancy because you want to make sure that you're opening up your pelvis, you're preparing your body for labor. And there are lots of different movements. I did a lot of swaying from side to side with my body. If you have, like I said, your partner, your support person while you go to give birth, sorry, I wanted to use you as an example. You can grab like their shoulders and you can sway back and forth. You can grab the top of the hospital bed. You can bring your birthing ball. You can go and request to take a shower. A lot of people like to shower. That was not something that I did, but I definitely swayed back and forth a lot, waiting for contractions with my second, and without knowing what that was going to fully, like the pain of the extent of the contractions, because with the first, the epidural, you really cannot feel the bottom half of your body. So you're not able to get up after you have your baby to go take a shower, right away. You have to have help for everything. And you need more assistance, and you don't feel as free after because of the numbness in your legs and things like that. So I just remember feeling better throughout my second. My second birth was just way more freeing. My birth plan listed things like not wanting to be hooked up to monitoring. So you do have to check the fetal heart rate of the baby. You do have to get hooked up at some point, but you can include on your birth plan, I don't want to be connected the whole time. I want to walk around, or you want to lay a certain way. So anything that's most important to you. I didn't list that along and, full of detail birth plan, but I recommend having a base and written down. That way when you go in, you can hand it to the staff, the doctors, the nurse, whoever's there. As soon as you get admitted, hand it to them and let them know, hey, this is what is important to me. Because they're able to read that, they review that before they're dealing with you. And then they can know. So they left me alone. They let me in the room with my husband, and I was able to just do what I needed to do until I was ready to push. And then I called them. That way you're not pressured to take any type of pain meds or any alternate, unless that's something that you choose or that you want to do. So for me, those are the details that I listed, and everyone else is going to have what's important to them. But for me, it was trying to go natural, the way that I wanted to try to push in. And you do not have to lay on your back and push. You can choose other ways. If that's more comfortable, you can do that. I think I did end up pushing on my back though with my second, which is still fine, but it was still a natural birth. The labor was much, much shorter.
Okay. So how long do you think you labored at home before you went into the hospital? Were you timing the contractions?
Honestly, I didn't have to time the contractions because I went in before they were that close, because I didn't want to chance it. I was still a pretty good distance from the hospital, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, depending on traffic. So I didn't really time them, but I would say about a day of just feeling like the aches, the lower back pains. I mean, there's lots of signs that you're going into labor, and your body knows, and then you feel, ready. So I told him, at that point, I was actually at my doctor's appointment. Both of my pregnancies, I'm not going to say late because 40 weeks is not late. But both of my babies went full term. And my second birth, it was 41 weeks. So I was actually at my last appointment at my OBGYN.
Okay.
So they helped me. When she went in, she said she accidentally broke my water,
The
but I
second
believe,
time?
yes,
Oh,
but I believe that
okay.
she did pop it. But I got contractions right away. My birth was much, much shorter.
Yeah. So when you went to the hospital, how long was it before you gave birth? When you went to the hospital that time? Last time it was 20 some hours?
23 hours, but 3 of that was pushing in total.
Okay.
So I would say maybe 13 to 14 hours
But in
of
the
labor.
hospital, you went to the hospital at what point? And then how long was it before you had the baby?
I don't remember the exact amount of hours, but I know that it was much, much shorter. In total, I don't
Was it
know.
2, 3 hours?
A little bit longer than that. It was a
Okay.
little bit longer than that. I mean, going natural made it extremely short compared to the first one. I mean, it's still, you're still giving birth to a baby, so it does take
Right.
time,
Yeah.
and things
Have
do
to be
take time to
patient.
progress. You have to dilate. But I would definitely just recommend, doing what's best for you and drawing out a birth plan ahead of time, because once you're in the moment of it, you really can't think as well.
Right.
And that's why it's important for you to give it to them. Bring 2 copies, explain to your spouse, your partner
Excuse me.
ahead of time. You're fine. That this is, the things that you would like to try to do. And I also wanted to touch on, like, some hospitals are more encouraging with, giving you what you want, but a lot of doctors and nurses are trained to progress and move things along because that's their job. That's what they have to do. So you have to know how to, in that setting, stand up for yourself, have your birth plan. It's okay to say, hey, after I have the baby, in my birth plan, I want an hour of skin to skin, and I want to nurse right away before you take them for tests, for any type of shots, any type of bathing. You're allowed, to say, hey, I would like skin to skin. So that was something else that I touched on in my birth plan.
That was great. Okay, so let's see. I was actually Deborah's doula.
Yes.
Not in real life. It was to get me in the hospital during COVID, so I could be by her side. In your first experience, did you feel safe, calm, and cared for in the hospital setting the first time?
I was really nervous. I think that if I would have had prior knowledge, knowing that, it's okay for me to say, hey, this is what I want, because it is your body, it is your baby. Just because that they're trained to do these things does not mean that that's what's best for you. It's for your family or for your baby. Sorry, the question you wanted me, did I feel safe in the environment?
Calm and cared for. The second time you were more empowered. So you
definitely more empowered. The first time I was just kind of, like I said, nervous. I of course wanted the baby out because that's the most rewarding part of it all. You have this long pregnancy and this long labor, like you want your baby. So that was also something that was very important. Bring something personalized. That's what I always would recommend. That was the difference for me. With the second, I had my personalized with my baby's name, a welcome baby sign with her name. And I left it on the table to where you can see it while you're pushing. So something for motivation, something that keeps you going, because you're going to have your baby at the end of it all. So
absolutely. That's beautiful, Deb. You did have a good birth. I can give you that. Based on your own experience, what encouragement would you give to new moms and you gave a lot already, and I know you said the most important thing is to feel empowered, like it's your baby, you want it this way, you would prefer, but what happens, if something else comes about? I mean,
well, that was where I kind of left it in my birth plan, like that I will. And you can look up, they have them pre-filled, so you can look it up. Is in the event of this emergency, is it okay to ask or administer the epidural if you're in extreme pain, or, and you can list those things out, what you are going to be okay with or not going to be okay with. But of course, if my second birth, if I would have experienced pain to where I felt like I needed pain management, and it's as safe and as effective as possible with all the doctors nowadays, then I definitely would have taken the epidural if I needed to. So I left room for, things that would happen, that because you can't have your perfectly thought out
Right.
plan.
Yeah.
Things are going to change, contractions are going to be, strong, emotions are going to be strong. So definitely just keep in mind kind of words of affirmation, things that you can tell yourself, prepare kind of mentally that you can do this if that's what you would like to do. Taking, different books, different articles, and reading those prior to
And
going
your
in.
husband was aware of what you wanted too, so he could
Yes.
support you. Like you said, sometimes you don't always can't think when you're going through the pain.
Yes, and for me,
especially
there was
emotionally.
different things that even the nurse said. The nurse was like, "You can have this comb." She gave me a comb, and she was like, "Put it in the palm of your hand." And she was like, "If the contractions are really strong, like you could think about the pain of the comb on your
Right.
hand instead of the pain of the
Absolutely.
contraction."
Mhm.
But what I told myself was, if you can get through this for 60 more seconds, I just kept saying another minute, another minute, another minute.
That's
So
good.
then by the time it came, like it was super fast by the time I was ready to push. And I'm getting emotional thinking back about it now,
Yeah.
but it was like I was ready to push like that.
Right.
So to experience two total opposite births was just amazing for me to see kind of what helped that and what made it such a great experience. And I'm happy, that I was able to have obviously both experiences, but the first one was just very long and it just didn't necessarily have to go that way. Like she said, that was an intervention, with a couple of things that happened in the first part of that labor.
And we had talked about earlier the cascade of interventions. You got your water break in, then they want you to stay in the hospital, then you have a long stay, and then you're
Yes.
tired, and then you feel pain more, and you get epidural, and so it continues on and on. So what's the last word you would give to the new moms that are going to have a baby for the first time? You've done well. You explained it well.
I hope
Appreciate that.
so. Thank you
But,
guys for listening. I would say just to know that you are strong and you are capable of this. Like I said, I mean, we can all say our bodies are meant to do this, but in the moment, it is painful. It is hard. You are going to have, that baby's coming. So just kind of prepare yourself to where you have something that you're motivated, like I said, the personalized, whether it be a blanket, something that you can see, just kind of tell your partner, hey, if I get like this, can you please do this? That's also a good thing, is to give them a tip of how to calm you down, because sometimes your partner can get really nervous, or your partner can be, excuse me, I need a tissue. Your partner could be squeamish, and maybe you know that they're going to be like that, but you're going to need their support either way. So I would say preparing them or your support person for while you give birth is one of the biggest things as well, because you're not the only one that needs to be prepared. So maybe telling them how to help you when you know you're going to need help. Like, hey, if I give you this hand signal, can you please do this for me? Or can you do the talking with the nurses, because I'll be unable to do it.
Yeah. Would you recommend for the first time that new mom, new dad, they have another support person there?
A doula is an amazing.
Or if they can't get a doula, the last trimester, it's hard to secure a doula. It might be not impossible, but a mother-in-law, sister.
Oh, yes, definitely. Whoever you're comfortable with, as long as you're comfortable with that person being there and seeing you in that way, because, like I said, there's some people that can't handle that type of environment. But if you know that they're going to help you in your time of just extreme pain and not really feeling yourself, your body's going to be doing a lot of amazing things. So just if you can have a doula, I would recommend getting one.
Well, thank you so much, Deb.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
We'll go on from here and wish everybody a good birth.
Yes, good luck. Thank you.
God bless.